Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
All right, so get this. We're diving deep into the world of white gold today. Spain might have just stumbled onto a huge lithium deposit, and we're here to figure out what that might mean.
Big implications, potentially.
Yeah, for everyone, really. Our main source for this deep dive is an article from Euroweekly News.
Okay, the paper for expats in Spain.
Exactly. So we'll be looking at this through their eyes. Like, how could this discovery change things for them?
Interesting angle.
I thought so. So, lithium, it's like the backbone of, well, almost all our gadgets these days. Phones, laptops, electric cars, everything.
It's true. And this discovery could put Spain on the map as a major player in the lithium market globally.
The article even suggested Spain might become self-sufficient in lithium.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Huge. But of course, it's not all like sunshine and roses, right? This discovery, they're calling it the Conscious Project. It's got some people worried about the environmental impact.
Yeah, anytime you're talking about mining, there are concerns, especially on a large scale.
What are some of the main concerns people are raising?
Well, for starters, this project's near the border with Portugal. It's known for its natural beauty, the landscapes, the biodiversity. Mining, well, it can disrupt all that.
For sure. The article really highlighted that tension between economic opportunity and, environmental responsibility. So Spain's sitting on this potential gold mine, literally, but they've got some tough choices to make.
Definitely tough choices.
The article mentioned that mining hasn't actually begun yet, right?
Not yet, no. They're still in the early phases. Feasibility studies, environmental impact assessments, that sort of thing. Which is good. It means they're taking the potential risks seriously. But it also brings us to another fascinating part of this whole story. China's interest.
Yeah, China's interest in Spain's lithium. The article touched on it, but didn't go into a ton of detail. Could you fill us in a little? Like, why is China so focused on getting lithium globally?
Right, so China is already a leader in electric vehicle production, battery technology, all that. They've been investing heavily in lithium sources in South America. Chile, Argentina, Bolivia, places like that. And it seems they're using a similar playbook in Spain.
So they're following the lithium wherever it leads. Makes sense. But why is this such a big deal for Spain specifically?
Well, on one hand, Chinese investment could be a huge economic boost, especially in those regions where the lithium is.
I can see that.
We're talking jobs, infrastructure, a share of the global lithium market.
Sounds promising.
It does, and there's often a but, there are worries about the environmental and social impacts of Chinese-backed mining operations.
Oh, so it's not as straightforward as China invests and Spain prospers.
Unfortunately not. The article mentions some issues with Chinese-owned mines in Chile, especially around environmental practices. And that's got some people in Spain concerned.
I bet. Are the economic benefits worth the potential environmental risks? It's a tough question.
It really is a tough question.
So, Spain is in a tough spot. Economic growth on one side, potential environmental damage on the other. What a predicament.
A real dilemma.
I'm curious, what kind of lithium extraction methods are they considering in Spain, and how do those compare to other methods in terms of environmental impact?
That's a great question, and one that's being hotly debated in Spain right now. The article didn't get into specifics about the proposed methods, but we know there's a whole range. Some are less invasive, have a lighter footprint. Others can be pretty disruptive.
So the environmental impact could be really different depending on what method they go with.
Exactly. It adds another layer of complexity.
It really does. Any thoughts on how this might all play out?
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. Spain's got a unique opportunity, though. They can learn from what's happened elsewhere, both the successes and the, not so successful stories. They could set a new standard.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
A new standard for responsible lithium extraction.
It would.
Realistically, though, how much power does Spain actually have in this situation? China is a huge player in the lithium market, and they don't have a reputation for, backing down.
Yeah, you're not wrong. China's influence is definitely a factor. But Spain does have some leverage. They control access to the lithium, which means they get to set the terms to some extent.
It sounds like Spain's really got to walk a fine line here, wanting the economic benefits, but also needing to protect the environment. Set a good example, too. What do you think are the most important things they should be thinking about? as they try to, navigate this whole situation?
Transparency for sure. The Spanish government has to be open with its citizens about the risks and the benefits of this lithium extraction.
Makes sense.
They need to talk to local communities, environmental groups, get everyone on board, and they've got to set up strong environmental regulations and make sure people follow them too.
Strong regulations and enforcement. Got it. But let's, for a second, kind of shift gears and bring this back to our listeners. Some people might be thinking, okay, this is all interesting, but what's it got to do with me? What's the takeaway for someone who isn't directly affected by this whole lithium thing in Spain?
Right, that's a good point. It's easy to feel disconnected. But the thing is, this really does affect all of us. The demand for lithium is only going up, especially as we move towards, a more electric world.
Electric cars, electric everything.
Exactly. So what's happening in Spain, it's like a little preview of what we'll all be facing globally. It's about how do we get the energy we need, but without destroying the environment or taking advantage of people.
So it's like Spain is holding up a mirror to the rest of us, kind of. We can learn from what they do, the good and the bad. That makes sense. But what can we actually do as individuals? Is this something that's only up to governments and corporations to figure out?
Oh, not at all. We all have a part to play. Think about the things we buy. Do we really need a new phone every year? Can we get devices that last longer? With batteries we can replace. We can support companies that are trying to do things the right way. Ethical and sustainable sourcing.
Yeah, voting with our wallets. That makes a big difference. And thinking about what happens to our gadgets when we're done with them, not just throwing them away. Are there other things we can do, though?
Absolutely. Staying informed is huge. Reading articles, listening to, podcasts like this, learning about all the complexities of where our stuff comes from, the resources, the impacts. The more we know, the better choices we can make, and we can speak up for change, too.
Right. But it can all feel overwhelming sometimes, one person's actions don't really matter when you're talking about a global issue like this.
I get that. But remember, it all starts with each of us being aware. If enough people start demanding transparency, accountability, sustainable practices, it puts pressure on those companies and governments.
It creates a ripple effect.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged, to think, what's the point?
Yeah.
But even small things can add up, right?
Absolutely. And talking about it is important, too. Talking to your friends, your family, sharing what you're learning. The more we talk about these things, the more they become part of, what we all think about and care about.
True. Just starting a conversation can make a difference. So instead of getting overwhelmed, we can focus on what we can control, right? Our choices, what we talk about, how much we're willing to learn.
Exactly. And it's not just about lithium, It's about building a future that's good for everyone and good for the planet.
Well said. This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening for me. It's crazy how something like discovering a new resource can have so many consequences.
It really shows how connected everything is, doesn't it? What happens in one place can have ripple effects all over the world, even for generations to come.
It's kind of poetic almost.
It is.
This little element, lithium, shaping our future.
It really is. And that brings us to, the big question. What kind of future do we actually want?
All right, everyone. Time to really think about this. We've explored the excitement of this lithium discovery in Spain, the potential for economic growth, the concerns about the environment, the whole geopolitical angle. But now it's like the million-dollar question time. What happens now? What does this mean for Spain long term? And how could this affect, the whole world? What do you think?
Well, it's like we've been talking about. Spain is at a crossroads, right? They've got this chance to do things the right way with this lithium to be a model for everyone else. Or they could, make the same mistakes others have made.
It's the big responsibility.
It is. The choices they make in the next few years, they're going to have effects for a long time, decades even.
So it's not just about digging up the lithium and making money fast.
Yeah.
They really need to think about the kind of impact they want to have. What are some ways this could all go? Best case scenario, worst case scenario, all that.
Okay, so let's be optimistic for a minute. Spain could really focus on sustainable mining practices, invest in renewable energy, to power the whole thing, and they could really work with the local communities, make sure their needs are met.
That sounds promising.
It does. They could even use this as a way to, become experts in new technologies and become a leader in the whole clean energy transition.
Wow, that'd be huge. Spain, a green energy powerhouse.
Yeah.
But what if they go the other way? What if it's all about making money as quickly as possible?
That's where things could go south. You could see damage to the environment, water shortages, even social unrest. If they don't plan carefully and make sure there's oversight, well, it could end up doing more harm than good. And then there's the whole China situation.
Oh, right, China. We can't forget about that.
Yeah.
How do you think that's all going to play out?
It's a bit of a mystery, to be honest. But China's not going to stop needing lithium anytime soon, that's for sure. And if Spain isn't careful, doesn't set clear limits and enforce those environmental rules, well, they could become too dependent on Chinese investment, and then they might lose control over their own resources.
So it's a delicate balance. They've got to find a way to benefit from this lithium without, giving up too much control or hurting the environment.
Exactly. And it all goes back to that bigger picture we were talking about. The whole world's trying to change how we get our energy. We're moving away from fossil fuels towards cleaner options. But to do that, we need a ton of resources, lithium being one of them. So how we get those resources, how we manage them, that's going to have a huge impact on everyone for a very long time.
It is a lot to think about. But in the end, it's all about choices, right? What choices do governments make? What choices do companies make? And what choices do we make as individuals?
That's right. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting. It's not just about Spain and their lithium. It's about all of us and the challenges and the opportunities we're all facing as we figure out this whole new energy landscape.
Well, there you have it, folks. We've taken a deep dive into the world of white gold, the potential and the risks. We talked about the balance between the economy and the environment and what this all means for everyone. But we want to leave you with one last thought. What role do you want to play in all of this? How will you make your choices matter?
Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep talking about it. The future is, well, it's up to all of us.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.